But we're going to talk about the Battle of the Gullet. What should have been seen in episode 9 of House of the Dragon, and they just instead faded to black? Gosh, this season was such a disaster. All right, well, previously, we had Sharuka Lahar of Lice. He had just taken control of Viserys, who they thought was dead. And then he went off to have a big battle. He divided his fleet for the attack. And just before, if anyone or an algorithm wants to have a canary, in the book, he's called a he. So he divided them up, and then in the early morning hours, the warships swept in with the rising sun behind them. Hidden by the glare, they took many of Lord Valerian's galleys unaware, ramming some and swarming aboard others with ropes and grapnels. Lord Valerian, of course, the sea snake. Leaving Dragonstone unmolested, the southern quadrant fell upon the shores of Driftmark, landing men at Spicetown and sending fire ships into the harbor to set ablaze the ships coming out to meet them. By mid-morning, Spicetown was burning by, I think it's pronounced Mirosh and Tarashi troops battered at the very doors of high tide. So Sharuka Lahar is kind of a badass admiral, divided up the troops and took on a lot of Lord Valerian ships and set upon Driftmark. That's pretty intense. And by making the character such a buffoon, I'm not entirely sure how this is going to be pulled off in the show. Quote, when Prince Jaehaerys swept down upon a line of Lycian galleys on Vermax, a rain of spears and arrows rose up to meet him. Kill the rider and the dragon will depart, their captains and commanders had told them. One ship took fire and then another. Still the men of the free cities fought on until a shout rang out and they looked up to see more winged shapes coming around the dragon mount and turning toward them. So I can see how this could be a pretty cool sequence, because if there's one thing that the show has shown us, House of the Dragon, is that they do very well with their dragon scenes. Where they go wrong is when they try to change the story of it. It is one thing to face a dragon, another to face 5. As Silver Ring, Sheep Stealer, Sea Smoke, and Vermithor descended upon them, the men of the Triarchy felt their courage desert them. Now, this is where I will have some rage, because note they said Sheep Stealer. That means Nettles is supposed to be flying it, but as I told you, I bet you $1,000 they're going to have Bela come in and take Aegon the Younger's role and rescue him, take Sheep Stealer over to Dragonstone, and then that's how she's going to join in the Battle of the Gullet. The disgrace. She has her own great story, but apparently that wasn't good enough for them. Continuing, the line of warships shattered as one galley after another turned away. The dragons fell like thunderbolts, spitting balls of fire, blue and orange, red and gold, each brighter than the next. Ship after ship burst asunder or was consumed by flames. It's kind of graphic here, but that's what happens when you have a whole bunch of flames and fire and dragons doing everything. Screaming men leapt into the sea, shrouded in fire. Tall columns of black smoke rose up from the water. All seemed lost. All was lost. This is gonna be sad. As always, there are several different versions that are told about what happens next, but the Meister or the fake narrator does a good job of telling us all the different ways that it could have happened and the way that it most likely could have happened. Here is the different versions. Some claimed a crossbowman put an iron bolt through his eye. And when we say the eye, we're talking about Verimax. Another account tells us that a sailor in the crow's nest cast a grapnel as Vermax was swooping through the fleet. One of its prongs found purchase between 2 scales and was driven deep by the dragon's own considerable speed. Either way, my heart's going to break. I can't stand to see an animal having issues, even a dragon. The sailor had coiled his end of the chain around the mast, and the weight of the ship and the power of Vermax's wings tore a long, jagged gash in the dragon's belly. Oh my gosh. Yes, I can barely even read this. Vermax went down smoking and screaming, clawing at the water. Woo! My goodness gracious. Survivors said he struggled to rise, only to crash headlong into a burning galley. When the ship heeled over and sank, Vermax sank with her. All right, for people that were gaslighting, oh, don't you know it's not all about dragons? It's not all about dragons. It is definitely all about dragons. It's about the dying of the dragons. It's the dance of dragons. And so each time one of these dragons falls, it's just so gut-wrenching. And not just gut-wrenching because, oh my gosh, these poor dragons, it's just awful, but also because this is the Targaryen dynasties kind of disappearing. Yeah, that's the other thing. Is what happened to House Valyrian is brutal. So far, we've just been hearing about the dragon, but riding on that dragon was Jacaerys, the heir to the throne. It is said that Jacaerys Valyrian leapt free and clung to a piece of smoking wreckage for a few heartbeats until some crossbowmen on the nearest Myrish ship began loosing quarrels at him. The prince was struck once, and then again. Wow. See, I like the actor who plays Jacaerys, so I think this is going to be really cool. But watch Ryan Condal go, oh, we decided to change the battle because, there's unreliable sources. So they'll probably not do justice to it. Finally, one took him through the neck, and Jace was swallowed by the sea. There he goes. Continuing, the Battle of the Gullet raged into the night north and south of Dragonstone and remains amongst the bloodiest sea battles in all of history. Shiroka Lahar had taken a combined fleet of 90 warships. 28 survived to limp home. Icetown was brutally sacked. I won't go into the gory details, but men, women, and children did not have happy deaths. Buildings burned. The town would never be rebuilt. High Tide was put to the torch as well. All the treasures the sea snake had brought back from the east were consumed by fire. His servants cut down as they tried to flee. The Valyrian fleet lost almost a third of its strength. Thousands died. Yet none of these losses were felt so deeply as that of Jacaerys Valyrian, Prince of Dragonstone and heir to the Iron Throne. It is written that when the sea snake was congratulated on his victory, the old man said, "If this be victory, I pray I never win another." This could have been the climax of this season, though goodness knows what kind of messery was going on. There's different people that say that maybe HBO messed with things, that it was the writers that messed it up. But even if HBO had messed things up, still the whole trajectory of season 2 was on the showrunners, and the filler was on the showrunners. And they could have gotten creative with some of their budget things. Like, even if they wanted to put the Battle of the Gullet off, how does that explain everything else that went to Hades in a handbasket? We do have Hugh the Hammer and Ulf the White, the dragon seeds. They lived through the battle. "We are knights now, truly," Hard Hugh declared. And Ulf laughed and said, "Fie on that, we should be lords." The girl Nettles did not share their celebrations. She had flown with the others, fought as bravely, burned and killed as they had, but her face was black with smoke and streaked with tears when she returned to Dragonstone. And Adam Valerian, lately Adam of Hull, sought out the sea snake after the battle. What they spoke to each other, even Mushroom does not say. So that is the Battle of the Gullet. I don't know. What do y'all think? It's pretty devastating. Gosh, even just reading it, it makes me sad. Oh, let me know.